And it was a pretty slow day, honestly, in the beginning because that's the first day back for all the students and staff. So, not everyone makes it to class on their first day back after break. People from out of town coming back. Just kind of a gray, blah, I think it was a slightly warmer day, maybe like 50s or 60s. So the morning, I remember that I took a theft report, like right out of the gate. And I live and breathe off of coffee, especially that early in the morning. And knowing I was working a 16-hour shift, I just knew it was going to be a coffee-fueled day. And I remember like, oh man, I can't wait to get coffee. Had that theft report, did the theft report, came back to the station to type it up. I was like, okay, I'll hammer this out, then I'll go get coffee. Right as I finish it, we get a call about the gas leak that was at that building. So we knew the building was evacuated. We knew they were sending, Columbus Fire was already on scene. They were debating if they were going to have to bring in hazmat or not because they couldn't really identify the source at the time. I was nearby to my lieutenant, and then he kind of was thinking out loud. He's like, I wonder if we should send somebody on that just to help with traffic flow because they had evacuated the building, which is pretty standard. I was like, sure, Lieutenant, no problem. I'll go take care of it for you. And he was like, really appreciate it, And I remember sitting there for a while. I was just sitting out there with my the beacons onto my car just to make sure traffic didn't turn westbound. I see a car continue on, go up a curb, strike a bunch more people, and eventually stop in the middle of that courtyard area. And I think at the time, I just thought it was, a medical emergency. It was just an accident. So I remember calling on the radio saying, I need multiple ambulances. We had a vehicle go through multiple people. I forget my exact wording, but something along those lines. And I positioned my car closer to try to block off more traffic. And as I was getting out and running up to the vehicle, I noticed that the driver's side door was open, which was kind of weird, and there was nobody inside the driver's side portion too, no one at the wheel. And at that point in time is when I heard like a secondary wave of screams, and then you could kind of see the ripple effect from the epicenter of what that was, and everyone kind of moved out, but I still didn't know what was going on. So the senses went off that something's definitely not right. I drew my gun and said, what's going on? And someone said, he's got a machete. And then I asked where he went, and somebody, I don't remember who or what that person even looked like, was able to say he went that way and just gestured with his arm. And somehow, I just remember time really slowing down, and I was able to pick up this guy running with a large, butcher-style knife about the blade like that long, just running, chasing after people away from me.
Did he see you? When did you make that contact where he realized? Did you say something to him, run up to him, or how did that?
He did not see me for a while, I don't think. They talk about auditory exclusion and tunnel vision and these sort of things, and for whatever reason, I didn't get tunnel vision. I was able to, everything slowed down a whole bunch, and I remember everything sounding echoey and very surreal, but I was able to pick up on a bunch of details. I yelled after him multiple times, drop the knife, drop the knife, drop the knife, but he never looked back at me, never acknowledged me.
He was still chasing
People. Yeah, he was he was kind of going up and down the street diagonally, running away from me, chasing anybody he could reach, slashing pretty wildly at anybody. About, I think it was close to 100 yards west of the initial car crash is how far I had chased him on foot. And before that, as soon as I knew it was a machete, I was able to radio, 10-3, which is police code for officer in trouble, pretty much, send everyone to help. And I was able to run after him, repeatedly yelling, drop the knife, drop the knife. And I don't think he quite picked up on me until he was making his way to the main entrance at Seebeck, which is across from Scott Lab. But that was after I saw him pretty severely slash somebody and they dropped. But at that time, I really had no opportunity to safely take a shot at him because there were so many people in the area. I couldn't take that shot and hurt somebody else also. So about the time that he crossed north of 19th into the Seebeck entrance, he was running towards the main doors, but the whole glass curved part of that building was occupied with students studying. A bunch of them were standing up, seeing what the commotion was about, seeing who was yelling, why everyone was running. I eventually was able to yell a few more times to get his attention. And at that point, I remember him looking at me, looking back at the female he was chasing, and then the front doors he was trying to get to, looking back at me again, and then making a longer turn and running straight at me at that point. And then that's when I ended up firing my weapon at him.
So he charged you head on.
Yep.
Had the knife,
Mm-hmm.
with obviously the intent to harm you.
Yeah.
To go right after you. You had your gun drawn at this moment. He
pointed at him.
saw that, and he still
Yep.
came
Charged right
at
me.
you.
Yep.
So at that moment, your instincts took over. You shot.
Yeah. Yep. But I don't even remember the sound of my own gun going off.
He fell at your feet. Immediately after, what did you end up? What was your first thought? What did you do?
That's when things kind of started like, holy crap, that just happened. But just with our training and throughout this whole thing, the training really kept me working through this, kept me processing this, just completely ridiculous situation I found myself in. But even at that, the training is what really kept kind of my whole world from collapsing in on me. Because it was, okay, if there's one, there's probably another one. So I just still kept my firearm out, was scanning the area. We're trained to give medical aid after a shooting when it's safe to do so. So I was able to, I think I walked up and kicked away the knife that was still in his hand from him. And I think at that point, I had another officer arrive right then to back me up. And then very shortly after, a Columbus fire medic who had just left the scene earlier, had done a U-turn and came up 19th the wrong way to get back to us and was right there and was able to give the guy aid. And again, with the training, just we stay very object-focused, goal-oriented on what we want to do. So it's like, okay, well, this scene was cleared. I ran back to the car crash because I remember somebody being stuck under the car at first when I was immediately there. I remembered all those people that got injured. So I wanted to make sure I could, give first aid to anybody there until the medics could get to those people. So I ended up sprinting back that whole way I had sprinted before. And then when I got up there, it was very eerie because nobody was around at all. It was just a smoking car, and there was a bike wedged under the front of it, and there was absolutely nobody there. And as I later found out, that's because the fire battalion chief that had stayed behind from his crew had actually directed a bunch of other students to triage those students, drag them into the building that were hurt, safety, and got all of he really did a great job saving a bunch of lives inside or more serious injuries.